Hi, welcome. So here at Blueprint Studios, we like to build things. Universes, our own self-character, video game concepts, and etc. Well, today we're going to be delving into a new episode of Fix It or Frame It, the series where I take films and fix it by giving suggestions on how to make it better, or frame it by telling you why it's great. In today's video, we will be discussing Iron Man, the inaugural film that launched the Marvel Cinematic Universe in 2008. What started out as a Marvel Comics character created by Stan Lee, Larry Lieber, Don Heck, and Jack Kirby in 1963 eventually became one of the biggest gambles in movie history. Some people forget we're not talking about Spider-Man. The character of Iron Man was a D-level hero at best until this film. Directed by Jon Favreau and starring Robert Downey Jr., whose casting was viewed as a risk, Iron Man exceeded every expectation. Not only did it become a box office hit, but it completely changed the way Hollywood approached blockbuster filmmaking. What set this film apart was how it balanced the tone of the film. There was comedy, action, drama, and character growth without feeling like it was switching genres. This film made you fall in love with Tony Stark before you ever fell in love with Iron Man. The film that hoped to start a franchise didn't just succeed, it overachieved, launching a cinematic universe that's still going today. Let's go over why it's great.
Choice. We'll celebrate or make it new. This is what I would do. What about you?
The movie begins in Afghanistan as military vehicles are driving through a desert. Inside one of the vehicles is Tony Stark, a billionaire playboy weapons manufacturer played by Robert Downey Jr. He brings such a funny vibe to the film, as he jokes with the soldiers escorting him. The vehicle begins to be shot at. That's when each of the soldiers gets taken out, leaving Stark all alone. He runs, hiding behind a rock, ready to make a tweet, saying, "You are not gonna believe what's going." Before he can finish, a rocket lands down beside him, with the word Stark Industries on it. As he gets up, it explodes, knocking him back. I absolutely love this visual. Tony Stark spends his life making weapons, but the very thing that almost kills him has Stark Industries written right on the side. Before Tony ever changes, the movie visually tells us that he's become the victim of his own legacy. We cut to Stark being captured as we get a title card. 36 hours earlier, we see a promo on Howard Stark, as we get told Tony is the prodigal son. Now, I do need to note that on the podium it says Caesar's Palace, and wait, wasn't that where WrestleMania 9 was? As the COO, Obadiah Stane, played by Jeff Bridges, accepts an award for Tony, he claims that he is always working, as it cuts to Tony gambling. We then see Tony arrive 3 hours late. Catching his plane, we get further introduced to Colonel James Rhodes, played by Terrence Howard. Don't get too attached to him though, Marvel had other plans. We cut to Tony giving a presentation on a weapon called the Jericho. Baby! Then we get to where we started. In flashes, we see Tony was operated on. He wakes to see a car battery hooked to his chest, keeping him alive. Tony gets to meet his captors. Somehow they have Stark Industries weapons. Tony spent years believing his weapons were protecting people. Instead, they're in the hands of terrorists. His entire worldview starts falling apart. They demand he make them the Jericho missile. Baby! Tony begins working on a project with help from another captive, Yinsen, played by Sean Tube. I love the character of Yinsen. He becomes the first person to really challenge Tony. Without him, would Tony have become Iron Man?
The world may never know.
Now, they haven't started working on a suit yet. Instead, they have been constructing a miniature arc reactor, so Tony doesn't have to keep carrying around the car battery. Smart. They then start working on the Mark I, where we get the iconic shot of Tony being a blacksmith. Tony gets suited up, and here we get a funny scene where Yinsen speaks Hungarian.
Say something. He's speaking Hungarian. I don't
Speak Hungarian.
Okay, I know.
What do you know?
Experts!
However, he then tries to buy Tony more time, in a scene similar to Han Solo in Star Wars. With the suit now at full power, Tony is like,
"Good luck, everybody else!"
He begins to take revenge on the captors, leading to Tony stopping in a cool wallpaper shot. Oh, he's gonna speak. Well, what does Iron Man have to say?
My turn.
Classic Tony. He begins destroying his weapons before he flies out of there. He doesn't make it far though, free falling into the sand. Ouch! As he's wandering in the desert, 2 helicopters fly over him. He's rescued! When Tony arrives at the airport, finally home, he has 2 requests. What, a Pepsi and then a nap? Nope, he wants a press conference and an American cheeseburger. Sorry, cheeseburger first. He arrives at the press conference. And look, I'm not trying to make enemies, but why did you choose Burger King? I mean, this was 2008. I'm sure there had to be a Hardee's nearby. Anyway, at the press conference, Tony announces,
I saw young Americans killed by the very weapons I created to defend them and protect them.
well, that got dark. He then states how he's canceling all production of weapons immediately, sending the press into shock. Obadiah tells Tony to lay low. And we then get the scene where Tony has Pepper switch out arc reactors. I realize I haven't mentioned Pepper yet, but she's played by Gwyneth Paltrow. This scene tells us everything about Pepper. She isn't impressed by Tony's money. She isn't impressed by his ego. She's just worried about him. Tony jokes his way through the scene, but that's what he always does. But underneath all the sarcasm, he's placing his life in Pepper's hands. Tony goes to ask Rhodes to be a part of a new project. That's when Rhodey calls Tony out. Ah! He's so cool! Tony begins working on a new suit, where we get a funny line when he says,
Dummy is still on fire safety. If you douse me again and I'm not on fire, I'm donating you to City College.
This is where we get our first look at the prototype Mark II. Tony wants to test it. When his AI companion Jarvis objects, Tony says the iconic line,
Aided before an actual flight is a
Jarvis, sometimes you gotta run before you can walk.
Classic Tony. He flies around the city. That's when he gets the idea to see how high he can go. However, the higher he gets, the more ice consumes the suit. Tony begins free falling, forcing him to think on the spot. He opens vents, breaking the ice before he crashes, showing Tony is super smart and can think under pressure. Tony then sees a package that Pepper left him. It's the first arc reactor, and it says proof that Tony Stark has a heart. We cut to the terrorists who have the Mark I armor and are working on putting it together. Like, oh no. This is where Tony has Jarvis begin painting the suit, gold and hot rod red. Jarvis says the suit won't be ready for 5 hours, giving Tony time to crash a party nobody expects him to be at. It's at the party that we get the annual Stan Lee cameo. Inside the party, Tony notices Pepper and can't help himself. He asks if she would like to dance. Even though she says no, he leads her to the floor. As they dance, they both decide to go get some air. As Tony goes to get Pepper a drink, he's met by the reporter from the beginning, Miss Brown. She accuses him of going back on his word, handing him pictures of terrorists with Stark weapons, including the Jericho missile. Baby! Tony goes straight to Obadiah, demanding answers. That's when Obi admits to being the one that filed an injunction against Tony. Tony was locked out of his own company because of Obadiah. We then immediately cut to Tony watching a news report that people in Gulmira are being forced to take shelter as the terrorists are wreaking havoc on the innocent. That's when Tony has had enough, getting the suit put on him in a very satisfying scene. He begins flying to Gulmira. When he gets there, he makes short work of the terrorists. Now, we get an awesome visual when a tank shoots Tony out of the sky. Tony gets to his feet, dodging a rocket to shoot a firework of his own. Though it didn't even sound threatening, it demolished the tank as Tony was walking away. He then destroys the Jericho missile. Baby! Now we get some fun as the US military starts coming after Tony. There is some playful banter between Tony and Rhodes in an excellent scene. As we cut to the terrorist camp, 4 vehicles pull up. In the front one, the door opens and Obadiah steps out. Not only did he lock Tony out of Stark Industries, but he's the actual villain. He hired the terrorists to kill Tony at the beginning. He hired them to retrieve the Mark I armor. And for all the help, Obi has all of those terrorists wiped out. Tony then has Pepper go to Stark Industries. She sneaks into the main office and copies data onto a flash drive. As she's leaving, she runs into S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Phil Coulson, played by Clark Gregg. Obadiah then goes to his team with the hope they have miniaturized the arc reactor. Spoiler alert, they didn't. We cut to Tony answering a call from Pepper. However, right once he answers the phone, Obadiah appears behind Tony with the short-term paralysis device. With Tony not being able to move, Obi takes the arc reactor from Tony's chest. He then tells him,
"Too bad you had to involve Pepper in this. I would have preferred that she lived."
While Pepper is with Coulson and other agents, ready to go arrest Obadiah, she calls Rhodey and asks him to go check on Tony. You then see Rhodes do a U-turn in his truck, and seriously, he's so cool! We then see Tony get downstairs, looking like he's gonna get sick. One of his robots hands him the original arc reactor. That's when they show Rhodey arrive at Tony's mansion. He finds Tony on his face downstairs. Oh no. James rolls him over and it turns out Tony's awake. He was just playing possum, I guess. The agents and Pepper arrive at Stark Industries, ready to arrest Obadiah. Rhodes asks Tony if there is anything he needs him to do. Tony responds,
Keep the skies clear.
Rhodey then turns to the Mark II and says,
Next time, baby.
like I wish. He then drives off in a sports car. Man, he's so cool! This is where Obi begins attacking the agents. As he comes for Pepper, Tony shows up, and we start to get the fight between Iron Man versus Ironmonger. Tony has to think on the spot. He chooses to climb the skies. When Obi catches him, Tony asks how he solved the icing problem. As Obi's suit loses power, Tony lets Obadiah free fall. This scene showed how intelligent Tony is because he learns from his mistakes. Tony then strategizes a plan. He gets on top of Obadiah and rips out his aiming system. And that makes Obi have the aim of a stormtrooper, hitting everything except for Tony. Tony begins demanding Pepper to push a button. When she does, it overloads the arc reactor, sending all the power through the roof. It hits and kills Obadiah, but it doesn't kill Tony. We then get a press conference. The next day, Agent Coulson gives Tony cue cards on what to say. He goes out in front of the crowd and begins following the cards, before going off script by saying the most Tony thing possible.
I am Iron Man.
Which is a big no-no. You have to remember, this was a time where every superhero had a secret identity. So for the first time ever, to have a superhero own up to who they are, it is a very big deal. Then the credits hit. Oh, but don't leave just yet, because we get rewarded for sitting through the credits, as we get a cameo from Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury, as he tells Tony,
"I'm here to talk to you about the Avenger Initiative."
And that's how it fully ends. I would give this film an in-awe 5-star rating. This film was out of this world. It started the craze of post-credit scenes. Now, I have to mention the performances like Jeff Bridges. He gives Obadiah a warmth that makes the betrayal believable. If he acted suspicious from the beginning, the twist wouldn't work nearly as well. Jon Favreau deserves an incredible amount of credit. He understood that this movie wasn't about building the greatest superhero. It was about building the right man to wear the armor. Iron Man isn't remembered because it was the first MCU movie. It's remembered because it made us care about the man inside the armor. Long before Tony Stark became a superhero, he became someone worth rooting for. And that's why Iron Man is a perfect film and deserves to be framed. But that takes care of this. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please go leave a like and subscribe to the channel because it would really help me out a lot. And with that, this is what I would do. What about you?